Thanks for tuning into this video. Now, the title of the video is Sugar Baby or Trader. And the reason why we're rebroadcasting this video is because we made it in 2023. The benefit of this channel is we make evergreen content around economic and real life situations. And why we do that is because we want the channel to be a resource that you can keep coming back to. The story that we're going to talk about in this video, it's relevant every day of the week. And what I want you to understand is this while watching this video. Many people are being corralled around being fearful of something, and the situation they're being corralled into is worse than the situation that they ran from. And they often don't realize that till it's too late. Sugar Baby or Trader. How women can get the life they desire in 2023. Now let's go into some Sugar Baby pros and cons. In this particular video, we're going to use Sugar Baby and GFE as synonyms because essentially they're designed to generate the same result for the woman. Let's go into one of the pros. It's going to be travel. We live in an era where everybody's traveling. Everybody's going all over the world. People now see this as a class status, their ability to travel or someone's inability to travel. And one of the pros of being a sugar baby, being involved in the GFE relationship situation, is you can get to do a lot of travel. And that can be beneficial to the woman because she gets to see different parts of the country. She can see different parts of the world. And she can become enriched because of her exposure to different environments. And that is one of the benefits of travel. That's why I'm very much pro travel, because I believe that if you really start traveling around the world, you'll start to see that there's a commonality amongst all human beings, regardless of ethnicity, skin tone, things of that nature. However, most people don't travel and they really don't leave their part of the world, and they don't know that everybody all over the world wakes up every day and does the same thing to maintain themselves, because why? We're all human beings. Another pro is going to be the sense of importance from dating and associations. And many people in our society, the way the society has kind of been constructed, is they generate their sense of importance from, one, somebody taking me out and spending money on me. They're kind of playing, we're in this era now in 2022 where we're doing the dual old school femininity, but modern women at the same time. You know, we're kind of, in football, we would call it a hybrid player. And a hybrid player was a person that could play multiple positions equally well. And what we're seeing now in the dating space in 2022 going on to 2023 is many women have been socialized to desire the ability to be an empowered woman with agency, but then when they choose to, I want to go back into a traditional feminine role. And then therefore they get a sense of importance from dating. If they feel like somebody's taking me out, they're spending money on me, they're willing to spend their disposable income on me, I feel a sense of importance from that. Also, their associations. Many people feel important based on the person that they're involved with. Their sense of importance doesn't necessarily come from them and their goals. It comes from who I'm involved with at this particular time. And that can be one of the benefits of being in, or one of the pros of being in a sugar baby / girlfriend experience relationship, is that sense of importance. Now, eating out. Many people believe that eating out is a class situation. They believe that I'm doing something the average person can't do if I can leave my house and buy food. I used to work in the restaurant industry. I'm from a city to where there's literally every restaurant chain that ever existed in the world. They try new restaurants out in the city that I'm from. The majority of food that you're eating has been taken out of a freezer. Reality. However, the average person doesn't know that. They've been socialized to think that eating out is a problem. And so because of the socialization, because that's the only way you can maintain the restaurant industry, is to socialize people that that's a problem. They now signal that to each other, that eating out is this big deal. So when you're in a sugar baby GFE situation, One of the pros is that you can eat out, and then you can feed that desire to feel like you're doing something by eating food that people have taken out of a freezer and reheated in a microwave and just done really good arrangement on the plate, right? Nice atmosphere in the restaurant, things of that nature. But the majority of the food is taken out of a freezer. That's how the restaurant industry works. Most food is not made fresh. Most of it definitely is not farm to table, things of that nature. However, because the average person doesn't know that, that's going to be a benefit to them. Another pros, not having to pay for things when with client, okay? To a person that is bought into the idea that my validation is when a person can use their disposable income on me, and a person has enough money to use their disposable income on me and they choose to do that. That can be a pro. When this particular woman is out with her client, she doesn't have to buy anything. She doesn't have to pay for anything. Like I said, we're living in this dual world now to where people are hybrid. You have the hybrid femininity, but also the hybrid modern woman at the same time. I want to be a modern woman with agency. I want to have equal opportunity, equal access. But then in my relationships, I want to still feel like I'm doing traditional femininity. And this is just a reality that we're living in currently now. Many women will feel like, well, I feel protected, I feel valued because I don't have to pay for anything when I go out with my client. And then that means that I'm a very valuable woman, right? Because in other situations, I was having to either go 50-50 or pay, yada, yada, yada. So they can get that sense of validation and importance that they believe that they deserve, because when they're out with their client, the way the relationship is set up, the client just pays for everything. Another pros, they're able to show off to friends. They're able to get that clout. They're able to get that status. Now, we understand that human beings are very driven by group status. And humans will spend their whole life trying to figure out amongst their group, whoever that group is, how I can get clout and how I can get status. And many times that status desire can be very fierce. It can be very relentless, and people will, aim for that their whole life. Many women that are in these sugar baby, GFE situations, part of what drives their behavior is to be able to show off to friends that I can get that clout and I can get that status because my situation is better than my friend's situation. My situation is better than what most women are dealing with. My situation is better than women of my racial group. My situation is better than women that come from my socioeconomic background. That drive to get that clout, that drive to get that status is very, very important. So that can be a pro, because then you can signal to your group that I'm here and you're there. And many times, because of the way women are socialized, they will affirm, right, that signaling. Then I get that emotional fulfillment if I'm the woman, and then I continue to engage in this behavior because I know that my group will signal back to me that I'm doing something positive. Now let's go into some of the cons. Now, one of the biggest cons can be that client emotions are involved.
Instagram model with more than 2 million followers is found murdered in Richmond.
And tonight, police say they don't know, or don't rather have a motive, but the suspect is dead too. Our Grace White is following the case.
Her name was Miss Mercedes Moore. At least that's what she goes by on Instagram, where she has more than 2 million followers. Her real name, Janae Gagnier, now dead at 33.
We pulled in while everybody was still here and the police were here, and the people were grieving.
Neighbors at the apartment complex in Richmond on West Point Circle shocked Sunday evening to see a crime scene.
This lady did pass away, that she was killed, and really that's all that we know.
And much about the case is still a mystery. Richmond police are the lead. All they've said so far, they believe it was a murder-suicide. The medical examiner says she was strangled to death. Found with her was 34-year-old Kevin Accordo. The ME says he died by suicide from multiple sharp force trauma.
Certainly we're going to be praying for her family. We know that it's a tragedy for the whole community.
A tragedy where there's still no known motive. Police say her family told detectives there was no relationship between the two, but there was no forced entry. Investigators confirmed his address in Florida, leaving family and friends to wonder if she was stalked on social media. But when we asked, Richmond police told us It's all still under investigation. Grace White, KHOU 11 News.
There's this narrative that has been promoted for a very long time and socialized a lot of people into believing it's falsehood, is that men are not emotional. Okay, men might even be more emotional than women. Men just act it out differently. And another falsehood is that when men are involved in a sexual relationship, there's not emotions involved. That's also false. When men are involved in a relationship in which they are financially supporting a woman, they're doing that because they're getting emotional fulfillment from it. They're not doing it because there is no emotional fulfillment that they get. They're doing it because they get emotional fulfillment from it, because 99% of things that human beings do on a day-to-day level is because they feel like they're going to get emotional fulfillment from doing that thing. Therefore, it's impossible for a woman to be involved in a sugar baby situation or a GFE situation, and the client that they're dealing with is not emotionally invested in that situation. And it can be very dangerous for the woman to not understand that and to believe that, well, I can cut this relationship off. I can, disregard this man because he's not emotionally involved. It's just about the sex, or it's just about the fact that I can be arm candy. That's incorrect. There's very much an emotional situation going on. And because the person may not really understand that, they can put themselves in a dangerous situation. Another con. Dangerous because you learn GFE, you learn sugaring from an internet person. This is really big. Now, when I was growing up, there was no internet. Internet didn't really get big till after 2000. So I was already, past what I would call my formative years. However, when I was growing up, many people believed what they saw on TV. We called it TV magic. They would see something on TV and believe it to be real. We're now in an era where people see something on the internet, they believe it to be real because the internet is now the new TV. And we now have a generation of younger people where if it's not on the internet, it's like it didn't exist. So everything that they're doing in their life, they have to do it on the internet as if it didn't happen. The fact that it happened in the real world is not relevant. It had to happen on the internet. Many people are getting introduced to GFE and sugaring from internet people. Person often who they can't see their face. They don't know who this person is. They don't know who their background is. Many of these women on YouTube are presenting themselves as being successful in this area. That's false. But this for years was such a small subculture in America. It was such a small subculture in the world. The average person never had exposure to it anyway. You understand me? For years and years, especially in America, if a woman wanted to be taken care of, she just got married. She often did not have a man that was taking care of her that was not her husband. What we've done now with the internet is we've exposed a lot of women outside of that small subculture of women that were involved in this. GFE, sugaring, also can lead into escorting. We've taken people that were not involved in this very, very small subculture and we've exposed it to the masses of people. However, because it was such a small subculture, the average person doesn't even know what this looks like in real life. Therefore, they're trying to learn this from an internet person. And many of the people that are teaching this on the internet, they don't know what they're talking about. They're just making this up as it goes along. They're presenting the image of it, but their actual things that they're actually talking about have nothing to do with this space. They're just making it up as they're going along. They figured out how to tell their audience what they want to hear. But if you try to go play this out in the real world, it's not going to work. Why? Because it's not based on real game or real information about how this situation actually works. It's just based on somebody just making up some content that sounds good to their audience. And that can be very dangerous. Another con, when things go wrong, you don't have anyone to ask for instructions. What do I mean by that? When you learn this from an internet person, you learn this from a person that just makes YouTube videos and you can't see their face. When you go out here and try to play these things out in the real world that this person told you are possible and they don't work, well, now you're dealing with a person. You're actually dealing with another human being and you're engaged in this dynamic. And you can't go back to the YouTuber or you can't go back to the influencer and ask them, well, how do I navigate this situation? And this is why historically women were taught how to navigate these situations from another person in the real world. They weren't taught this from internet people. But we're in the internet era. Therefore, people are now trying to figure out how to learn all of this online. But like I said, when you go out in the real world and you try to play this out and things don't work the way you thought they were going to work, and the situation doesn't go seamless, or you may have a hiccup in this situation, well, you can't go to that YouTube at 3 o'clock in the morning and try to ask them, how do you figure this out? Or you're on a trip with your client and they're mad because you're not going to do something sexually that they want you to do. And they're telling you, well, I'll just leave your ass here. How do you manage that? Because you don't have anybody that you can call and ask for instructions. You understand me? Because the YouTube is not going to, how do you get in contact with them? They're on YouTube. And this is what you have to understand. Many women are being introduced to this life and it was never for them. And they're seeing a segment of somebody that they think is doing this on the internet. They're not seeing their life 360 degrees. They're seeing what's being presented to them. And then they're thinking, well, I can just go do this. And then when it doesn't work, there's nobody they can reach out to and ask them for help or instructions on how to do this, because historically, women were taught how to do this in the real world by another person. Another con. The men you are with will realize that you don't know anything and they'll play on that. So let me give an example. You're a 25-year-old woman. You're trying to do the sugar baby thing. You're trying to do the girlfriend experience thing. In fact, eventually you probably want to start escorting. Okay, cool. You're dealing with a guy that's 55, 60 years old because he now has a disposable income to support your lifestyle. But you know what you don't know? He's been tricking since he was in his 20s. And he elevated himself into being what people would call a sugar daddy or a sponsor. He elevated himself into that because as he got older, his income got greater, his assets got larger, his net worth has started to increase. So now he's in a financial position to do this. But he's very experienced and seasoned at being a trick. You know what? He's going to realize very quickly that you're very unlaced and you're not seasoned. And then he's going to play on that because he's going to realize you don't really know what you're doing because you're unlaced and you're unseasoned. Because why? Well, I learned how to be a sugar baby from somebody on the internet. I took an internet course and they taught me how to be a sugar baby. Right? He's going to play on that. And because you lack experience, you don't really know what kind of people are really in this world and what they're really looking for and how they will try to play on you because they realize that you really are lame to this game. You're very green. You don't know what's going on. You don't have a lot of experience and you haven't been laced properly. And therefore, you don't know how to present yourself as being up to speed as to what's going on. Because really, this lifestyle is not for you. You need to go get married and sit back and just work a regular 9-to-5 and get out of the way. But you want to live the fast life and you're going to find out that it's really too fast for you. And that's going to be one of the cons. And there was a young woman, I want to say maybe almost a year ago. She was involved in this and they found her somewhere with an overdose. And the client that she was with was much older than her, which means that he was much more experienced than her. Right? And she didn't understand that when you're on a date with somebody, that you don't do these things and you don't get involved in this because why? It creates a lot of safety issues for you. She didn't understand that. So she fell victim to this. Everybody talked about it for a week on the internet, then they moved on to what the next story was. But in reality, she's gone.
Steve, thank you. And new details out tonight about the moments leading up to Lauren Smithfield's death. News 12 Connecticut has obtained the Bridgeport police report, and our Mark Sudol takes us through some of the details.
In this report, Bridgeport police say when they arrived at the apartment of Lauren Smith Fields on December 12th, the man she met on a dating app, Matthew LaFountain, answered the door and was frantic. They say they found Smith Fields lying on her back on the floor, dead, with dried blood in her nose. Police say LaFountain told them the night before on their date, Smithfield's brother dropped something off for her and she went right to the bathroom and was there for 15 minutes, but he never asked her about it. LaFountain told police he and Smithfields had been drinking, and after she fell asleep on the couch, he carried her to her bed. According to the report, LaFountain says he heard Smithfield snoring at 3 o'clock in the morning, but when he woke up at 6:30, she had blood coming out of her nose and she was not breathing. He says that's when he called 911. It was later revealed that Smithfields died from an overdose of drugs and alcohol. The police department opened a criminal investigation after the medical examiner released the cause of death.
This is the incident report created by the Bridgeport, Connecticut police involving Lauren Smithfields and Mr. Matthew LaFountain. Now, one thing that we want to understand is that Miss Lauren Smithfields cannot contradict anything that's on this incident report because she's currently deceased. However, I want people to be able to read and understand how Matthew LaFountain described the situation between himself and Miss Lauren Smithfields. Police arrive at the house, or they arrive at the apartment, I asked him what her name was. He replied, Lauren. When asked for her last name, he said he wasn't sure, but her Instagram page says it is Smith. He stated that he had only known her for 3 days and came here for the first time last night. They met on the dating site Bumble. When asked, stating that after meeting on Bumble, he found out that they had a mutual friend via Instagram, and they began to chat there. She invited him over for a date, asking him to give her $40 to get her nails done and to bring a bottle of tequila. He said that he arrived at her home at approximately 21:30 hours and tried to contact her via Instagram call twice, but she did not answer. He said that he does not have any direct contact information for her and only ever contacts her via Instagram. Thinking he was stood up, he left. But Lauren called him back a short time later, saying that she didn't answer his call because she was putting on her makeup. We get down to the end of this particular incident report. I found a U.S. passport identifying Lauren as Miss Lauren Smithfields, male with the same name, a MasterCard with that name, and $13.45 in cash. You have to really understand is that when you're operating on the fringes of society and you're operating outside of normal society, and you also could be doing something that law enforcement can perceive as being illegal, society may not respond to your death the way your family or maybe even you would like them to when something goes wrong. And you need to understand that going into the deal. Everybody's going to show you the glamorous side. They're not going to show you the downside of living certain lifestyles because that's not going to be attractive to you. And that's what you have to understand. When you're involved in this and you're a very unlaced, unseasoned person, the people that you're dealing with are going to recognize that. They're going to see the moves that you're making and they're going to say, you know what? This person's making a lot of mistakes that I can potentially take advantage of if I decide to, because they don't even know that they're making these mistakes. And if you end up with the wrong person and they decide to pursue that, it can put you in a very, very tough situation. Now let's talk about trader pros and cons. One of the pros of being a trader, very low cost to start up. Unlike a lot of traditional brick and mortar businesses, you don't have the big CapEx spend. You don't have to buy a lot of inventory. You don't have to buy a lot of merchandise. You don't have to build a building to do what you do. You don't have to drill in the ground to find a lot of oil. There can be a very low cost to start up. Now that cost can be relative or subjective to the person. You have some people that believe that $1 million startup cost is low. You have other people that believe that $1,000 startup cost is high. It's going to be very subjective. However, in my opinion, The cost to be a retail trader is much lower than any, I wouldn't say any, I would say is much lower than the majority of business startup costs, because you don't have to outlay a large amount of capital to get involved in the space. Is there an expense to it? Like any business, there's expense. Are there going to be continuing expenses? Like any business, there's going to be continuing expenses, what we call operating expenses. However, unlike the majority of businesses in the world, you don't have to spend a large amount of money up front to get involved. Another pro, you own your retail account as long as it's a cash account. Many people are dealing with the pattern day trading rule. They deal with the fact that I can only do so many trades per day. When you have a cash account, it doesn't matter as long as your trades close out. Whether you're an options trader, futures trader, equities trader, bond trader, as long as your trades close and settle, it doesn't matter how many trades you do because you're operating off of cash. Okay? And there's a lot of different ways that sometimes you get around that pattern day trading rule. We're not going to talk about it on this video. But as long as you're operating with a cash account, you own your retail account, and you can control how many trades you do as long as you can settle it, maintain the cash in the account, and you don't take on margin, which is what a lot of people operate from. Another pro, no one is going to decide not to transact with you because of an arbitrary reason. What do I mean by arbitrary reason? The color of your skin, your sexuality, male or female, your political position. They don't know who you are. You literally have anonymity behind your computer. Most of us are not doing big block trades of $10 million worth of shares at one time. Therefore, you often don't know where the trade is coming from. Most of these trades are executed by computers, they're executed by algos. You rarely know where the trade is coming from. Therefore, you don't have to worry about, well, somebody doesn't want to do business with me because I posted something on my social media yesterday and now I'm going to get shut out. Or I made a comment about bad business relationships I was having, and as a result, a group of people decided to cut me out of my business and decided to make me unbankable. You don't have that issue in the trading space. Another pro, there's really no cap on your income. New York Stock Exchange has around a $90 trillion market cap. If you and your group get together and y'all put yourself on a plan to pull out $10 million out of the New York Stock Exchange over the next 5 years, nobody will notice it. In other areas, the market cap for that market is so small in relationship to the amount of people in the market that a lot of people will notice once you start pulling a lot of money out of that market. And then they're going to rise up to oppose you. Why? Because they want that money. There's so much money in these markets that you can pull out a lot of money that in your mind is a lot of money. And to other people, that doesn't even, those are accounting errors of less than 1%. And that's what a lot of people don't understand about the liquidity in the market. There's a massive amount of liquidity in these markets. And unlike other markets where there's less liquidity, nobody's going to fight you over this liquidity, because what's money to you is not money to them. Now, here's some of the cons. Every personality flaw you possess will be exposed by the market. This is where a lot of people struggle. They come into the market with certain personality issues. They come into the market with a lot of personality challenges. And as a result, that gets exposed by the market. The market will always show you who you really are. You may be able to hide that in other scenarios. You may be able to hide that in relationships for a certain amount of time. The market will really quickly figure out who you actually are, and it will show that to you. And that's where a lot of people struggle. And as a result, they leave the market because they don't like who they really are. They don't like having to see themselves, because a lot of what we see on the internet is a charade. It's acting, it's theater. Well, the market won't allow you to do that with it. And that's where a lot of people struggle, because they only want to participate in an environment in which I can be somebody that I'm not. Another con, if you don't like to read and study, success can be hard to find. Many people don't like to read, they don't like to study. They want somebody to spoon feed them the answers. This market isn't designed to do that. When you're trading for yourself, you have to invest in your education. You have to invest in what's going to make you better. And I do not know a really successful trader that doesn't read and study. I don't know anyone. Not saying that you got to make it your life, but I don't know any successful trader that does not read and study. When you come into this space, what you're going to find is that a lot of the really successful people over a sustained amount of time are extremely intelligent. Why? Because they're constantly reading, studying, applying. They're not just reading and studying. They're not just, depositories of a lot of information. They're not doing trivial pursuit. They read, study, and apply. They iterate. They read, study, and apply. They iterate. They do that over and over again as part of their success. Another con. You can feel like it's taking a long time to be successful because you want success now. Many people wait till they're desperate, till they start looking to change their life. Many people wait till they're at the bottom, till they start looking to change their life. We know that about a lot of people that have substance abuse. They tell you that person's not going to change till they hit rock bottom. Many people wait till they're at their lowest point before they start looking to try to change their life. Then they want overnight success. Took them 5 years to hit the bottom. They want to turn everything around in 60 days because they're so uncomfortable now. They want a quick change. However, it often can take sometimes just as long as it took you to get in the hole to get out, because you got to dig your way back out now. And when people start to accept that I have to now build out a path to success the same way I built down a path to destruction, and they can accept that, they can put themselves in a position to be successful. But one of the cons is, well, this is taking me a long time. Well, how long you been trading? 6 months. Well, that's not a long time. Now that's subjective because I don't know what situation that person is in. But many people, they wait until they at their bottom to change their life. Then they want to get an overnight change. And that's why they a lot of times stay in that cycle of looking for that magic bullet instead of locking in on something and getting that change, because it might have taken me 2 years, but I just locked in for 2 years. Another con. Your role in society, my role in society, was not to be a manager of capital. My role in society was to be a consumer and a taxpayer. If I was lucky. If I wasn't lucky, I'd just end up in prison. That was supposed to be my role in society way before I was ever born. That's how society has kind of segmented people that look like me. I'm supposed to pay taxes and be a consumer if I'm lucky. If not, I just go to prison. Definitely was not to be a manager of capital. You look at who does capital management in this world, the majority of the people don't look like me. And many people, they struggle because they was not supposed to be a manager of capital. Now they go into a capital management position and they start to have identity issues. If you look at a lot of our people, we never are told we're supposed to be managing capital. We're supposed to be doing everything else except that. We're not supposed to, you can make a household budget, but you're not supposed to manage large amounts of capital. That's not supposed to be your role. That's for other people to do. That's their role. And that's why many people can have identity issues. Even when they're successful, they start to ask themselves, well, should I be managing $40,000? Should I be managing $60,000? I'm putting $60,000 out into the market to get a return. And no one I know that looks like me has this role. They may spend $60,000. They may be in debt $60,000, but their job is not to manage $60,000 to get a return on $60,000. Then they start having imposter syndrome issues. That can be a con. Another con. Your role in society was never going to be an evaluator of business and the economy. You can have identity issues. People that look like me, people that look like the female members of our family, our job was supposed to pay taxes, support the military industrial complex, support the government and their spending, and be a consumer. That was supposed to be our role in society, and we were supposed to be content with that. Your role was never to be an evaluator of business, never to be an evaluator of the actual economy. That's supposed to be somebody else's role. They're supposed to worry about those type of things. And then therefore, when you start evaluating businesses, when you start evaluating the economy in a real way, you can have identity issues. Why? Because I don't know anybody in my group that talks about things like this. And then therefore, even though you're successful, you can have imposter syndrome. Am I supposed to be here doing this even though it's generating success for me? And that can be one of the cons. And these are some of the things that you got to think about. Often in life, we can be successful, but because we feel like I don't deserve this success because I'm not supposed to be here. And it's way bigger than I just moved to the other part of town. It's way bigger than just my marriage partner. A lot of times it's what role has society ordained for me to be acceptable for me to be in. Right? And now that I'm not doing that, I feel like I'm doing the wrong thing because the programming is so deep that I only should be doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's the choice. Figure out what you want to do in life and just make a wise decision. Because the impact of your choices can be very, very long term. You go out here into this GFE, sugar baby world, and you make a bad decision. The choice is yours. You need to choose wisely. Ask yourself, what do I want out of life? What do I want out of the next 5 years of my life? What do I want out of the next 10 years of my life? What do I want out of the next 20 years of my life? And ask yourself, what am I involved in today that can help me get that? If I have a yearly plan, what am I doing today to help me get to my yearly plan? What do I really want? And then also ask myself, what is going to be the cost associated with what I want? If you try to go down this sugar baby GFE lane, what do you really want and what's going to be the cost associated with that? Really ask yourself that. Just don't get caught up in the hype. Therefore, the choice is yours. You need to choose wisely. And what we try to do in this particular video is to give you pros and cons of each situation. Therefore, you can make better choices. David W. Williams, also known as Diamond Dave. I'll talk to you later.